All right, guys. Hi, hello. Sorry for the lateness on this recording. It's something that, again, was unavoidable. Technology, all had some points, had some issues with it, I'm sure. So I'm going to get into this really fast. I'm going to go through this information like yesterday. You don't have to take these notes. If you want to just listen to me talk about them, that's cool. They'll be helpful for you as far as our final big thing that is coming on Monday. Otherwise, you're just learning a little bit about this more recent part of American history. So when we last talked, we were discussing Bill Clinton and his administration. We talked about the whole gambit, him being elected, his approach to both foreign and domestic issues, him kind of dealing with the new reality of living in America, which is much more violent and scary, to be frank, and then his impeachment, where he managed to stick in the White House, but his second term was coming to a close anyways. So in 2000, brand new, again, presidential election is going to take place. We're going to have Al Gore running as the Democratic vice president, or who had been the Democratic vice president under Bill Clinton, running against George W. Bush, who is the son of George H.W. Bush. He was a Republican senator from Texas, again, like the rest of his family. There was a third party candidate that made a little bit more noise this time around, which is Ralph Nader. He is part of the Green Party, so on and so forth. This election is considered one of the closest in the history of our country. Leading up to official election day, the predictions kept bouncing back and forth. It really came down to a handful of big states that would help to guarantee that one, again, Al Gore would win over George W. Bush, or vice versa. And those states are Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. What ends up happening is that, well, the other states kind of went the way that they thought they would. Florida it becomes the swing. It's the big state here. Whoever wins Florida is going to win the race because they needed the big chunk of electoral votes to be able to push them over the edge. Gore won the popular vote across the nation, and this is something you'll get in American Studies 3, how our voting system actually works. But the popular vote does not guarantee that that winner is the winner. It's the Electoral College that does. What ends up happening is in Florida, Bush wins in Florida by a razor thin margin, only 500 votes. And if you think about that, that is not very many. It's a very small window, so it automatically triggered a recount. And Al Gore refused to accept the outcome even after the recount. So he is actually going to sue, again, the system in Florida, saying that they lost the election for him, that he should be president. And it's not actually until December 12th of that year that George W. Bush will be named the victor and the new president of the United States. Normally, we know, again, on November 11th, again, thinking right around that time period. But this time it took a whole month. Again, the protest, legal action continued for months after the fact. But whether we like it or not, George W. Bush was president in 2000. So when we talk about, again, George W. Bush's time in office, the most important hallmark of his entire time as president of the United States is going to be basically controlled by the events on September 11th, 2001, when Al Qaeda attacked the World Trade Centers for the second time, much more successfully than the first. And again, W is going to be forced to react to this. The decisions that he makes are, again, widespread and varied. You've never lived in a world where this wasn't the case, where these things weren't part of the reality. But again, in the immediate aftermath of the terrorist attacks, again, W and his administration are going to put together a bunch of anti-terrorist measures. They're going to be able to detain foreigners for 7 days without charging them. So if you don't have citizenship in the United States, you can be arrested and sit in jail for 7 days without being told what for. The Department of the Homeland Security is going to be created. We didn't have this department of the federal government at this point. The whole purpose of Homeland is to coordinate national efforts to combat terrorism. Because of the rise of terrorism in the United States, we needed to create a new aspect of our government to take care of that. We're going to see that there is going to be coalition forces, again, that are sent to Afghanistan, bombing, trying to root out the leader of Al Qaeda, which is Osama bin Laden. And then also, and again, if you started working on this today, you have a little bit of background about it, is the passage of the Patriot Act. So the Patriot Act was created in the aftermath of the, again, attack on the World Trade Centers. It's also been revamped and is being revamped again in this moment. Basically, what the Patriot Act did, improved information gathering technology at the federal level. The purpose, at least what was described to us as a country, was that it's going to facilitate information sharing capabilities between different branches of the government. So thinking the FBI can communicate with the CIA, can communicate with Homeland, can communicate with, again, all the different groups. And the idea is that by having this increased ability to share information quickly and to monitor information, that we can respond faster to terrorist threats, that we can stop them, that we can, manage to derail them, to respond faster so that the fallout is smaller, so on and so forth. But when you look at the information gathering technology, well, again, the truth of the matter is it's the fact that the government now has access to a lot of the private communications of American citizens. So when the Patriot Act is first introduced, there's a lot of really harsh criticism, and your activity has you look into this a little bit. The fact that this is just adding another layer of complexity to our already very complex governmental system. Bureaucracy is just this idea of more agencies and departments and committees, and it just is more, again, it's harder to be able to understand and to keep track of. It also threatens American civil liberties. Civil liberties is like civil rights. It's the idea of freedoms, of, again, things that are ours, that we are expecting of our government to protect. And, well, the Patriot Act is invading some of those liberties by going through our information and, again, getting access to things that most of the time we don't even know that they have access to. The other, again, important decision that is made as a result of 9/11 is the war against Iraq. Again, the Iraq war that we are going to find ourselves embroiled in starting in March of 2003. And the last time we had any kind of direct interaction with Iraq was during the Persian Gulf War. And we handily defeated Iraq with Saddam Hussein, who was in charge. Again, and well, let's just say our relationship with Saddam Hussein had never been very good. The Persian Gulf showcased even more so that we don't trust him, that we don't agree with him as a leader. And again, the Persian Gulf kind of knocked them back a few steps because, again, it was quick, it was decisive. Iraq, Saddam Hussein was beaten. Well, in the aftermath of 9/11, as we're investigating and trying to find out more information about Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden and all of this kind of stuff, information is passed through the United States that stated Saddam Hussein, the leader of Iraq, was supporting Al Qaeda. Again, supporting them by giving them weapons and intelligence and things like that. Also, when that information was given to us, there was some evidence, at least that's what we thought, that Iraq had possession of WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. This, of course, made us very worried that if they were working with a group like Al Qaeda, that Saddam Hussein and Iraq would utilize or give weapons of mass destruction to these groups who are targeting the West, particularly the United States. So we are going to go to Iraq. We actually go in with Great Britain, our close ally. We're going to invade. We search and search and search and search, and we don't find any WMDs. But again, Saddam Hussein is a bad guy. He's a tyrant. So in the end, we're going to help Iraq basically stage a coup through our military and those who want Saddam Hussein gone. We're going to help remove him from power. He'll be captured, tried, executed. We'll stay in Iraq, helping them trying to create something new in the aftermath, and we'll be there a really long time. So that's all of the pretty much again the big direct connections to the 9/11 attacks. Other aspects of George W. Bush's again time in office. The other two big things that he was concerned with in a more domestic level was our education, and then our economy, which was again kind of it was working on it here. Okay, so education wise, in the Bush administration is going to again create and pass the No Child Left Behind Act. No Child Left Behind basically put a lot more accountability on the state level for student success. Remember during again W's father's time in office, A Nation at Risk was published saying that America was falling behind, so on and so forth. No Child Left Behind was meant to try and push us past this. It requires mandatory testing, so all of those lovely tests that you take every year, that's because of No Child Left Behind. And it again increases the school options that are available. Another aspect of George W. Bush's time in office, another cue from his father, is tax cuts. Huge tax cuts. Try and create more jobs, again, help the economy, so on and so forth. So his first term in office was again in and out. Some people praised him for the decisions he made. Others were really disappointed. In 2004, he runs again. And he will be reelected, though as his second term of office gets going, things take a fairly negative turn quickly. We stay in Iraq even after the, again, overturning of this Hussein regime, and people are become increasingly discontent. We stay there for a really long time. Hurricane Katrina hits the country, and well, again, George W. doesn't react very well. He waits too long to activate FEMA. He again is going to be again handled. He just gets a lot of the blame for this. The economy starts taking a downturn at this point, and well, the Patriot Act becomes more well known. Remember, we're at a point in American history where we're very suspicious of our government. People are more likely to question things, and well, again, we start to find out more because people are spilling the beans, the idea of whistleblowers. And we find out that, again, they're spying on us. Again, the word spying has obviously got negative connotations, but again, it is the truth, that they're watching us much more closely than they ever were before. We also find out about Guantanamo Bay, which is again, semi-secret, at least it was at one point, again, a jail where in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, pretty much any terrorist suspect gets sent, and well, they don't ask them nicely whether or not they're terrorists, to say the least. Quite famously, they're going to utilize some pretty brutal torture methods to try and, again, get confessions and information out of these people. Yep, and it makes us very uncertain about him going forward. So that's it for the Bush administration. Again, we'll talk briefly tomorrow about the Obama administration, and then on Friday, we'll have a little bit of information about communication and science. And then that'll be it. Okay, so as far as work to be completed, again, you're checking Classroom throughout the end of the week. You've got an assignment today about the Patriot Act, which is going to have you look at it, look at some different arguments, things like that. It's on Classroom right now for you to complete. It's due by Friday. On Monday, you're going to be assigned your very last item, which is a current event report. That'll be due again Tuesday the 9th. As far as extra credit, it's ultimately things to be able to help boost grades, to get you feeling more comfortable before the end. All the directions are on Classroom, but as a reminder, I'm going to be accepting missing work, only things that are zeros in the grade book right now, and only from quarter 4. You don't get full credit, but more credit is, or some credit is better than no credit. Doesn't apply to the local history project or any assessments that are missing. The other extra credit item is actually straight extra credit, and that is a Forrest Gump timeline. Again, details are on Classroom for you. Don't forget to check Classroom for the grade opt-in survey if you are looking to take your letter grade as opposed to the pass-fail. Totally up to you. Again, just make sure that you get that finished up sooner rather than later. I hope you guys all